Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we are going to check out third places.
Ooh, third places.
Yeah, I like
Not home, not work, but places where people still find a sense of community. And we've got some really interesting under-the-radar examples for you. Places you might not think of right away as like, oh, this is where community happens.
Okay.
So let's start with one. Church patios.
Church patio.
Church patios. Now, I know you might be thinking, really? Church patios.
Okay.
But trust me on this one.
Okay.
These spaces have a history that might surprise you.
Okay, so church patios, like I'm thinking of like after church,
Yeah.
everyone hanging out.
Yeah.
And, back in the day, they were pretty hopping places,
Yeah.
especially after Sunday services. Picture it, service ends, everyone spills out onto the patio, and you got that smell of potluck food in the air, kids are running around.
Oh, that's a great image.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just like, okay, see you next week, go home.
No.
It was a real gathering spot. It was where community happened. People would hang around, chatting, catching up on things. Kids would be making friends. It was a real hub.
And you know what's interesting is that for some communities, these patios were even more important because they didn't have a lot of public parks or wide open spaces.
Right, exactly. It filled a void, especially for kids.
Yeah.
They needed a place to just be kids, run around, be free. And a safe place, too.
Fully.
These patios weren't just an extension of the church building. They were truly a part of the community.
Yeah, it really makes you think, have we lost something today by not having those kind of casual gathering places?
It does make you wonder.
I know.
All right, well, let's move from church patios to something completely different.
Okay.
We're going to the mountains of Fujian, China,
Ooh,
where we'll find another interesting third place.
Okay.
Tulu Homestays.
Tulu Homestays. Now, I got to admit, I'm not familiar with those. What is a Tulu Homestay?
Picture this. Big, round, earthen buildings.
Yeah.
Some are centuries old. These are the Tulus. And they were actually designed for communal living.
Oh, wow.
You'd have multiple families all living together under one roof, sharing resources, supporting each other.
So these are centuries-old communal living spaces.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Are people still living in them today?
Some people do. But there's been an evolution. You see, you've got these new ventures popping up inside these old structures. Things like homestays, farm-to-table restaurants, even cafes.
Oh, wow. So they're not just historical relics. They're being revitalized.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's tradition meeting modern entrepreneurship. Guests can experience the Tulu, taste the local cuisine, really immerse themselves.
That sounds like a very cool travel experience. A blend of history, culture,
And community.
and community, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's switch gears a bit to a third place that's meeting a very specific need in communities today. Community gardens.
Community gardens. Yeah, they're popping up everywhere.
But we're not just talking about any community garden, right?
No, this one's in Bennington, Vermont. And it's designed to bring refugees together.
Oh, wow. That's a great initiative. Starting a new life in a foreign country can be really hard,
It is.
especially if you don't speak the language or have any connections. A garden sounds like the perfect place to foster belonging.
It is. Imagine you're a newcomer, feeling isolated, unsure. Then you find this garden, a shared space to connect, to learn, literally grow something beautiful.
It's about more than growing food, isn't it? It's about growing connection,
Absolutely.
sharing stories, building that sense of community in a new environment.
And for refugees who may have farmed back in their home countries,
Right.
it lets them use their skills, their knowledge, provides continuity, purpose.
It really is amazing how a garden can have such an impact,
It is.
especially for those starting over.
From nurturing plants to nurturing connections.
Yeah.
This garden really shows the power of third places to create belonging.
Okay, so we've covered 3 fascinating third places. We got 2 more to go. Let's head to Detroit, Michigan, where a cafe called The Straits is redefining what a community space can be.
Oh, this place is great.
Yeah.
It's not just a cafe, it's a music venue.
Okay.
It's a community gathering spot.
Hold on. So I can get coffee, listen to music, and connect with my neighbors all in the same place.
Exactly. That's awesome. They have local musicians, so you get a taste of the Detroit music scene.
Oh, cool.
Plus, they've got a menu that changes using local ingredients, so you're supporting local businesses.
It's like they've bottled up the entire community and put it inside this cafe.
Yeah. Music, food, people, all together.
In a cool atmosphere, too.
It is a great atmosphere. And it's not just about providing the space, it's about fostering connection.
Mhm.
The owner is really invested in the community, always creating chances for people to interact. Open mic nights, community
Or
discussions.
just striking up a conversation over coffee.
Exactly.
That's what makes the third place special, right?
Yeah.
It's the intention behind it,
It is.
wanting to create that community feel.
The Straits Cafe really shows how a business can be a force for good, making life better for the people running it and the community.
Okay, time for our final third place today.
Hmm.
We're going to the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, Washington, to be exact. There's a brewing company there that's proving businesses can be so much more than just places to buy things.
Media Brewing Company, they're all about brewing community.
Maybe a brewing company.
Yeah.
I like the name.
Along with their craft beers.
So what makes them different from other breweries?
Well, first off, they've created this really welcoming, inclusive space.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're with family, friends, or just by yourself. You'll find a spot to relax.
So it's not your typical brewery, not catering to just one crowd.
Yeah.
They're really trying to make it a gathering place for everyone.
They really are.
Okay.
They've got lots of room for families with kids, cozy corners for friends to catch up, and communal tables that encourage people to talk.
Really well thought out.
It is.
It's like they're building a third place within their business, realizing that people want connection, community.
They are.
Yeah.
And they go beyond just the physical space, too. They host all kinds of events, game nights, book clubs, community discussions.
Creating opportunities for people to connect on different levels.
Yeah.
So it's about more than just selling beer.
All right.
They're weaving community into their business model.
They are, and it seems to be working. Media Brewing has become a real hub in the neighborhood, showing the power of businesses to nurture not just the body.
But the soul.
That's so
5 very different third places today, each with their own unique approach to community building. What are some of the key takeaways for you?
Well, one thing that stands out is that these third places are more than just locations. They really show our desire to connect, to share experiences, to feel like we belong.
They're like hidden pockets of community,
Yeah.
in plain sight. They remind us that connection can happen anywhere, from a church patio to a brewery.
As long as the intention is there.
Exactly.
And they highlight that community isn't something that just happens. We create it through our choices, our actions,
Yeah.
the spaces we choose to be in.
So to all our listeners out there, think about the third places in your own lives. Where do you go to connect, to recharge, to feel that sense of community?
What are those spaces that make you feel like you belong?
Because in a world that often feels divided and isolating.
These third places are so important. They hold communities together.
Yeah.
They spark creativity. They remind us we're not alone.
Beautifully said. We'll be right back to talk more about why these spaces are so important and why we're seeing them pop up more and more today.
Stay with us. Welcome back. As we explore these third places, what strikes me is how different they all are.
Yeah, you're right. We've seen a simple church patio become like this lively hub.
Right.
These ancient Tulu structures in China being reimagined for modern living.
Yeah.
And a garden as a safe haven for newcomers.
It's really inspiring.
It is. Speaking of community gardens,
Yeah.
let's go back to that project in Bennington, Vermont.
Yeah.
The one designed to help refugees.
Yes. What's remarkable about this garden is how it was designed to meet their needs. It goes beyond just fresh produce.
Exactly.
It's a place for language exchange, sharing culture, learning new skills.
Imagine arriving in a new country feeling totally lost and alone.
Yeah.
Then you discover this garden. People who understand your journey, speak your language, share their knowledge. It's a safe haven, a place to rebuild.
It really is.
That's like a mini version of society where people from all these different backgrounds come together and create something beautiful. And what's even more amazing is that it's not just impacting the people in the garden.
Right.
It's become a source of pride for the whole community.
Absolutely. A symbol of welcoming inclusivity.
Yeah. It shows how something as simple as a garden can ripple outwards, creating positive change for everyone.
Okay, let's switch gears now to another third place that's doing things differently. The Straits Cafe in Detroit.
What impressed me about this place is how it blends so many different things to create this really unique community hub.
They do. It's not just a cafe. It's a music venue, an art gallery, a gathering space. They've created this place that appeals to so many interests.
It reminds me of those old general stores.
Oh, yeah.
They used to be the heart of small towns. You could buy groceries, hear all the gossip, even attend town meetings. The Straits Cafe is capturing that same spirit.
But with a modern twist.
Exactly. It's like they've tapped into this timeless, human need for a central meeting point,
Yeah.
a place to connect on all these different levels.
And with the music, the art, the community events, they've created this energy that draws people in.
It does. And the food and drinks are great too.
Yeah.
You can tell they're passionate about supporting local businesses.
They are.
It really speaks to the power of intentionality. They've designed this space and their offerings to reflect their values and create a positive impact. Okay, let's go back to those Tulu homestays in China for a minute. These structures weren't originally meant to be tourist destinations, were they?
No, no. They were built centuries ago as fortified communal living spaces to protect families and encourage that sense of shared responsibility.
Wow.
It's only recently that they've been recognized for their architecture, their culture, and adapted for tourism.
It's amazing how something born out of necessity can transform into a source of cultural exchange
Right.
and economic opportunity.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that by adding homestays and modern amenities, it hasn't diminished that sense of community.
Really? I would think having all these visitors would change things.
Not at all. Actually, it's enhanced it.
Okay, I'm curious, how does that work?
Imagine staying in a Tulu, sharing meals with local families, learning about their customs, experiencing life in this unique way.
Yeah.
It creates connection and understanding that goes beyond language and culture.
It's like a bridge between the past and present, connecting visitors to the history and culture of the Tulu while also supporting the community
Yeah.
and preserving these incredible structures for future generations.
It's a great example of how tourism, when done right, can be a force for good. It can encourage cultural exchange, economic development, community preservation.
Exploring all these third places,
Yeah.
it's clear there's no one definition of what makes a successful community space.
Right.
It could be a bustling cafe, a quiet garden, even a centuries-old earthen building. The common thread seems to be the intentionality behind creating a space for connection and belonging.
Absolutely. It's not just about the physical space. It's the atmosphere, the activities, the people who bring it to life.
Yeah.
A successful third place welcomes people, respects them, makes them feel valued.
And that can be achieved in so many ways. Hosting events, having comfortable seating,
Right.
even just a friendly face.
Creating an environment where people feel comfortable being themselves, connecting with others.
And recognizing the power of shared experiences to bring people together.
Yes. Listening to music, gardening, sharing a meal.
Right.
These things create that sense of commonality, belonging.
Before we move on, I want to take a minute to appreciate those church patios.
Yeah, the church patios.
They may not be as fancy as a Tulu or as trendy as the Detroit Cafe,
Right.
but they hold a special place in so many communities.
They do. They represent a simpler time, maybe, when connections were more organic, less reliant on technology.
They were places where people just gathered, chatted with their neighbors,
Yeah.
watched their kids play.
And while we may not see as many church patios today,
Right.
they remind us that third places don't have to be fancy to be meaningful.
Exactly.
Sometimes the simplest places, the ones that have always been there,
Yeah.
those are the ones that create the strongest bonds.
It's about the memories, the shared experiences, that feeling of comfort and familiarity,
Yeah.
like a warm hug on a cold day, a place where you're always welcome. And they often play a huge role in connecting different generations,
They do.
creating this sense of continuity and shared history. Think about it. The kids playing on those patios today might be the grandchildren of the folks who gathered there decades ago.
It's a beautiful cycle of community building,
Yeah.
passing on traditions and values,
Yeah.
and it reminds us that third places aren't static.
Right.
They change and adapt along with the communities they serve.
Speaking of change and adaptation, let's shift to our final third place. It's relatively new, but already making a big impact. Medier Brewing Company in Seattle.
Yeah, Medier Brewing.
What impressed me about them is their conscious effort to create a space that's welcoming to everyone.
Oh, they've done a great job with that.
They have. They've gone above and beyond to make their brewery a gathering place for the entire community,
Yeah,
not just for beer lovers.
exactly.
Plenty of space for families, comfortable areas to relax and chat. And they host so many events that appeal to different people.
They do.
It's like they've taken the traditional pub or tavern and modernized it, made it more accessible,
Right.
appealing to a wider range of people.
They've recognized that today, third places need to be more than just places to drink. They need to foster connection, creativity, purpose.
And Media Brewing is doing all that.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They're not just selling beer, they're selling an experience. a sense of belonging.
A taste of what it means to be part of a community.
Exactly. And it's worth noting that this trend of businesses becoming more community-focused is happening everywhere.
Oh yeah, I've noticed that too.
Coffee shops, bookstores, co-working spaces. Businesses are starting to understand the importance of creating spaces that foster connection.
It makes sense from a business perspective too.
Right.
People want to support businesses that share their values
Yeah.
and that make them feel like they're part of something bigger.
And in a world that's becoming more digital, more disconnected,
Yeah.
these third places offer a way back.
Yeah.
A reminder that human connection is what makes communities thrive.
Yeah. So as we wrap up our exploration of these underreported third places, I'm filled with a sense of hope and inspiration. It's clear that the human need to connect is alive and well,
Yeah.
and these spaces are proof that community can flourish anywhere.
And it reminds us that we all have a role to play in creating these spaces, whether it's supporting local businesses,
Right.
volunteering at community gardens.
Or just being more intentional about talking to our neighbors.
Exactly.
So to our listeners, we challenge you. Take a moment to appreciate the third places in your life. Look for those hidden gems in your community. And most importantly, be an active part of building connections. The connections that make life richer and more meaningful.
Because when we create spaces for people to come together, we create spaces for magic to happen.
Until next time, happy exploring. It's like their slogan is, come to the beer, stay for the community.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful message, especially today when everything feels so individualistic.
It is. Mediate Brewing is a perfect example of how businesses can help build stronger communities. They're going beyond just selling a product.
Right.
They're cultivating a sense of belonging.
Which is something people really need these days.
Well, they do.
You know, it's interesting how our idea of third places has changed over time. It used to be just those traditional spots like churches or community centers. But now we're seeing these spaces pop up in unexpected places.
We are.
Like breweries, cafes, even gardens.
What's fascinating is that no matter the setting, the core elements of a third place are the same.
Yeah.
It's about creating a space that welcomes people, that's easy to access, where people can interact.
Yeah.
It's about that sense of neutrality where people feel comfortable being themselves.
Right.
No judgment. And it's about encouraging regular, voluntary interaction. People coming together because they want to, not because they have to.
You're right. It's not about the building itself. It's about the feeling people get.
Yeah.
That sense of comfort, connection, being valued.
It's creating an environment where conversations happen naturally, friendships grow, and a sense of community starts to take hold.
And these third places don't just benefit individuals. They make the whole community stronger.
They encourage people to get involved, bring people together, create a more vibrant society.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into these underreported third places, I'm feeling really optimistic, inspired.
It's clear that people still crave connection.
Yeah.
And these spaces show us that community can thrive anywhere.
And it's a reminder that we all have a part to play
We do.
in creating these spaces.
Whether it's supporting businesses that value community, volunteering our time.
Or simply being more intentional about connecting with the people around us.
Yeah. Just striking up conversations, reaching out.
So, listeners, we challenge you. Take a look around. Appreciate the third places in your life.
Find those hidden gems in your community.
And most importantly, be an active part of building those connections.
Yeah.
Because those connections are what make life richer, more meaningful.
When we create spaces for people to connect, we create spaces for magic to happen.
Beautifully said. Until next time, happy exploring.